for people to sit down and really hear each other would make such a difference. Like, why do you believe what you believe, and how do you feel about that, and what are you worried about, right? And it turns out that I think we share a lot of the same values.
Wow, we are back with couples counselor Rafi Bilek today. I've already heard from a number of you about how you are going to try using some of the ideas that Rafi shared last week. So if you missed that part of this conversation, I encourage you to circle back and catch the episode from last week. But we are going to jump in today to begin talking about how these concepts that Rafi teaches us can work even in serious gridlock in a marriage. And in the case of one partner not being interested in pursuing improvement in the marriage, these tools still help. Plus lots of other tips Rafi has for us. Let's rejoin Rafi in the conversation. In a case where one partner is willing to do this work, but the other is not, how do you enter into that situation?
Okay, so two answers to this one. Number one, using good communication skills yourself is still helpful, right? If I step out of the loop of attack and defend, of arguing to make my points, and I just hear and reflect back to you and empathize with what you're going through, so number one, that changes the dynamic, right? I'm not perpetuating the argument continually. Number two, your partner may pick up some things from you. You know, if they see that you are doing things differently and it's helping, they may say, you know what, maybe I should do it more like them. Now, I wouldn't bank on that. It can happen. But if you're doing something just to get your partner to change, that's a losing proposition. You do something well because it helps you, not because your partner will then do something. So on one hand, doing it yourself can be very helpful and can make a difference in the relationship. The second answer is that if your partner is not willing to change, you may have what you have. Right? Some people are not interested in growth, are not interested in being self-reflective, and they don't care. They care about other things like football or like the newest clothes or whatever it is, and they don't want to build a relationship, in which case you have what you have. And if it's good enough for you, then great. Then you improve what you can on your end, and you keep going. And if it's not, then you say, okay, you know what, if this is not going to change, I don't want to stick around for this. So maybe you read the book and you offer it to your spouse, or you say, hey, we need to go to couples counseling. I really want to make this better. But there are many people who won't do that. And then people have to make a decision. Is this relationship good enough that I want to stick around or not? And I don't take it lightly. I know it's a very difficult thought to have, a difficult decision to make, especially when there's kids and other, and financial stuff. It's hard. But trying to get your spouse to change, again, it just doesn't work. You can ask them, you can say, hey, I'd like to make this better, I'd like to work on this together. But trying to force, coerce, cajole, manipulate, bribe, punish them into changing, these don't work. You can only change yourself. And that often is enough.
Have you run into
but
that?
But it may not be. And then you
someone
have to
is just
figure things
truly
out for yourself.
resistant.
Sure. I mean, I see that all the time. One place that comes up is with addiction,
Yes.
for example. Someone who's an alcoholic or a drug addict isn't in a place to really change themselves. They have to address the addiction first. There's a lot of denial there. There's a lot of resistance. Sometimes they even acknowledge. I had a case recently where the fellow acknowledged that he was an alcoholic and had a problem, and he meant to work on it, and he wants to work on it, et cetera, et cetera. And I kept saying, you should go to therapy, you should go to AA, whatever. Yeah, yep, I definitely should do that. Never did. Okay, well, in that case, the relationship's not getting better because the alcohol is front and center. It's ruining a lot of things. And until that gets addressed, communication skills won't help that much. They're not useless, but communicating well with an alcoholic still leaves you with an alcoholic, and that destroys lives. So there are certainly situations where people
Indeed.
cannot
For
or will
someone
not
who
change.
is really focused on
and
more
that
of
is-
their
that's a sad
individual
situation.
needs than the needs of the relationship, is there a way to balance that? Or does someone, they have to be invested to some degree to even want to try a new system, correct? How do you balance individual needs and the needs of a relationship? Hmm.
I mean, I think they by and large overlap. If somebody has a problem with their mental health, their family, their addiction, whatever it
Hmm.
is, those things are all impacting the relationship. So perhaps the place for them to start is not working on the communication skills because they are a bigger fish to fry, but dealing with your individual problems is probably also contributing to the relationship. And so maybe it's a question of doing both. A lot of people that I see are also in individual therapy, or I'll recommend it to them because they clearly have big issues that will not necessarily be resolved in couples counseling. People have their own internal things to work through. Now, couples counseling can help. A supportive relationship can help, and there's some approaches to couples counseling that really believe in the reparative possibility of a relationship. And I agree with that to a limited extent. But again, if somebody's an alcoholic, couples counseling will not fix that. You need to work on yourself. If you have a mental illness, bipolar disorder or something, couples counseling is
Definitely.
good. It
I
helps
see
provide a
that.
supportive environment,
It
but you got to
seems
work on the
like
stuff going on
I
for you
imagine
in
that
order
there
to make
are
that work. So I
factors or
think they
differences
dovetail pretty
that
well.
are part of this equation, like cultural, gender, family of origin situations. Do you see that, how that impacts communication strategies?
Sure. Sure. I think that there is a lot of
Mhm.
truth to some of the gender stereotypes in our culture, and whether they are, biological or cultural is a different question. But yeah, a lot of men do rush to fix things. A lot of women prefer to, talk about their feelings more so than men. And so teaching people to lean into each other and meet in the middle is helpful. And then there are a lot of cultural factors. Um, I'm not sure how well any of these modalities we have translate to cultures that are significantly different, like East Asian cultures, where the relationship is simply a subdivision of a larger family and larger community, and people subsume their individual needs to that of the group. So I've worked with a couple of folks who come, immigrants from China or Japan or whatever, where they really are culturally back there and have not really acculturated to the States. And I found that very different work and very difficult. And trying to just translate between the Western mindset of individualism and connecting to individuals versus just two synapses in a group, that's different. So that's one example. And there are other cultural differences, but that's probably one of the most
Yeah,
severe that we
interesting.
can identify.
And we were
Um,
talking about
and
the
so I think
severe
the
problems
jury's
that
still out
people
for
can
me
have. The
on
system
how
that
well we can
you
translate these
advocate
concepts.
is the same,
Yeah, I'd be interested to see
right?
how those develop as the world gets more and more globally intertwined.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think that different folks have different needs. People who have ADHD, for example, may need more help focusing and paying attention. People who are more emotionally volatile, for
Okay.
whatever
And I know
reasons,
we
may
talked
need to
about the
take things
pause.
slower.
You thought that that
So
was
there are modifications
particularly
you can
important.
put into the skills that we're
Okay.
using.
So is
But I think
that
the
what you
basic
would
ideas are
say
the
is
same,
the one
which is
communication
listening
principle that you
first, which is
most
reflecting
want
what I'm
listeners to
hearing, which is
remember?
empathizing with your point of view rather than just debating.
What?
Front and center. That's the one thing. Please, if you remember one thing, take a break. I think there's a lot of people who are rational, who are quite articulate and good communicators, but it all goes out the window when we're ramped up. The same thing's for me, right? Once you are like all angry and you're all red in the face, nobody does it well because your brain shifts, right? Instead of thinking from the human part in front, you start fight or flight mode from the reptile brain in the back, and all you're trying to do is save your skin. And so that's when people say the things that they wish they didn't say, that they don't really mean, but you can't take them back. And so I think that for a good number of people, just slowing down the process, taking a break and coming back to it later would save a lot of wear and tear on the relationship and would enable better communication. Now, learning how to do the communication part better is also very valuable, but
Yes,
none of it
I
starts
agree.
even
It does
without
seem
that
like
break.
that
None of the skills are
is
going to be used. I can
one of
teach you
the
all the
most
skills in the
difficult
world,
things
but
to
just
do,
like
though.
if you
I'm
come home
thinking about
drunk,
my
you are not going to be using those
relationship.
skills. If you
We've
come
been
home
married
and
a
you are
long
angry,
time,
red in the
36,
face, and your
37
heartbeat is
years.
over 100 beats per
The
minute, and you're
idea
going,
of
you're not going to use the skills. You will just not make that decision
just
because
stopping and walking
your
away
decision-making
would be
mechanism
very
is
hard,
different.
especially if you're ramped up. You know, your adrenaline's going, it'd be very hard.
Great. Yes. It is not easy. The first thing is start beforehand, meaning when something goes wrong, that's not the time to talk about it. So before you even get into it, taking a break is helpful. And this is hard also. And I know because I've been there, right, where my wife does something that irritates me, and I'm like, oh, I'll just go tell her right now. And then I say, no, that's not a good idea. I say, no, it'll be fine. It'll be a quick thing. No, you really don't want to. And I have this whole argument with myself because I get it. I get that tension. Usually I win out because I know that I have to go face my clients afterwards, and if I don't follow my own advice, that really stinks. But if you wait until the next day, half the things that bothered you don't even bother you anymore. And the other half, okay, we'll talk about it in a better way. So, first thing is before you even get into it, take a break.
Yeah.
The second thing is if you're in a conversation and things start to get a little edgy, that's a great
I
time to
didn't
take
think
a
about
break. Say,
that.
you know
Your
what? This
communication
conversation is
skills
going the
must
wrong
be
direction. Let's take a
perfect.
break, come back in 5 minutes, try again. Super. Right? It is much, much harder. The closer you get to the red line, the harder it is to take a break. And it isn't always pleasant. And walking out of the room doesn't feel good to anybody. But again, if we've agreed on it beforehand and we know that this is better for the relationship, it makes it possible and it's very valuable. Absolutely not. Definitely not. If you, I mean, throughout the book, you will see where I talk about my mess ups. I have blogs on the book website where I share more of those. Everyone gets to find out all the times that I do stupid things in my marriage, and I share that because it's helpful for people to know you don't have to be perfect. A good marriage is not one in which there are few mistakes. A good marriage is one in which there are a lot of repairs. So being able to do that, to come back and fix things, is really healing. It's beautiful. It feels good. It's good to avoid making stupid mistakes, but you can't avoid them all. Again, I've been doing this for almost 20 years. I wrote a book
That's
on it, and I
great.
still make
Is there a
mistakes because I'm
success
human
story
and I have
that you can share
emotions,
with us
and I'm
that
not
kind
in
of
perfect
highlights
control of them all the
your
time.
book's
But I
method?
follow the rules pretty well. I leave things until later. I take a break when needed. I speak about myself instead of speaking about my wife and trying to get her to agree with me. Those are things that help, and it gets better. And again, I mean, my marriage is the best thing in my life, and it's not because I don't make mistakes. It's because I put a lot of
Right.
work into it. Sure. It's one of my favorite ones. I must have talked about it in the book, is where I had this couple that were arguing about whether they should have another kid or not. And they came in, they said their marriage was falling apart because of these arguments. And again, it's a real tough one because you can't compromise on that one, right? It's not like you can't rent a kid for half time. It doesn't, there's no options. It's either you have one or you don't. And so we sat down and I taught them how to listen to each other and how to hear each other and reflect back and offer empathy before trying to argue and trying to solve the problem. She really wanted a kid because they had one kid, she wanted a sibling. He says no, but that's not going to work because this that the and that's back and forth, back and forth. But instead we slowed it down and she shared her perspective and he listened and really tried to understand it. Whether or not he agreed with it, I told him you don't have to agree, you have to understand it and care about it. And he did that. And then we switched and she did the same thing for him. And as they were able to hear each other and understand and care about each other, there was a connection being built. And they felt like they were on the same team again. And what the decision turns out to be is irrelevant. They came for 5 weeks and they never showed up again. I have no idea what happened with their decision, but they walked
That's
out
a
feeling much better.
very
They said,
cool
"Thank you. Our
story.
marriage is in a much better
I know
place."
you're a rabbi.
Because
Is
they were
that
able to talk
correct?
about it without hacking away at the connection between them. So I
You
think that
practice every
that
day,
more
Rafi.
than any other example shows the power of being able to talk in this way, is that even when you
So that's my
cannot
question: is
resolve
how does
the
how does
question, even
faith
when there is
enter
no
into
compromise
this?
and there's no clear answer, you can really change the nature of the relationship by bringing empathy and listening into it. Yeah. That is true. I don't really practice. I don't have a congregation or anything. But I did. Yeah, right. It's a daily thing. So I don't think it's a necessary part of having a good relationship. But I think that any relationship thrives on having shared values and shared dreams. And for my wife and I to be building a relationship in the context of the faith that we have and the religious practices that we find important, that is something that really draws us together and that feels like we have a culture of our own relationship and our own family that is meaningful, right? So John Gottman, who's one of the big researchers in the field, talks about the importance of shared dreams,
Hmm,
and having
interesting.
something bigger than yourself that
One
you're
of the
both a
parts
part
of your
of
book that I liked the
provides a really
most
nice
was the very end,
framework for the
where you
relationship.
talked about
For those people who
how
don't have it, so
you
great.
could
They
take
hopefully have other
these
things, whether they
concepts
are
and extrapolate
working
out
on certain
beyond your
activist
relationship at
ideas, or
home
whether they
to
belong to a larger
relationships
community
in the
of
world
their
and the
family,
world
or
worldwide.
of their an immigrant community or whatever it is. Being part of something bigger than yourself provides an anchor for that relationship. And for some people, that's their faith, and for some people, it's other stuff. Yeah. I wish I could get this book into the hands of other people. There's so many big political issues out there in our country, internationally. Everybody has a perspective that makes sense. On any of the flashpoint issues out there, gun control, abortion, gender, all these things that are like, really, rocking the country. For people to sit down and really hear each other would make such a difference. Like, why do you believe what you believe, and how do you feel about that, and what are you worried about, right? And it turns out that I think we share a lot of the same values. We all want people to be able to be free, to actualize themselves, to be the
I
best they
bet
can
you
be.
could.
We all
Yeah,
want
we
people to
have
care about each other.
a
Now, we
long
may
term,
find
well,
expression
it's
in that in
30
different
plus
ways,
years
but I think there's a lot of
friends who
shared
in the past
meaning
year
and values there.
have
And if we could stop
excised us from
arguing
their
like people
life
are doing in
because
ineffective
of
relationships
the
and
last
start being
political
empathic and listening to each
cycle.
other the
And
way that we
they
do
have
in relationships
decided
that have
that
good communication,
we do not
boy, would that
have
change a lot.
values
And
that are in
yeah,
common
Lily, just put me on a
anymore,
negotiation committee
even though
between
they haven't changed.
Trump and Iran, and I think we're
Over the
we're in
30
better
years,
shape.
they haven't changed. And I've just often thought, I mean, we have sat down with them, we've talked to them, but I've often thought if the empathy part, if you could just approach it from that, and also appreciating somebody else's perspective, just that.
That's sad. Wow.
Did you really? Wow. Were they able to navigate it? Yeah.
Sure. It's very sad. Politics in the past,
Sure.
couple of years
Yeah,
and
the
decades
ones
has
within
really tanked. I
families,
mean,
it
I
just blows
I
my
remember when
mind.
Trump was
I
first elected,
can't
I got a
imagine
wave of like couples
even
and
more so.
families coming
Well,
in
that
trying to
is
deal
very
with,
cool.
the
I love
political
that idea.
fallout of that
I
and how that
think you
impacted
should
on
be
their
sent to
relationships.
Washington, Rafi, to navigate that.
Some yes, some no. The cross political
Well,
relationships.
are
It's
there
been hard.
next
It's always been
steps
hard,
after
for a
someone
Democrat
reads your
married to a
book?
Republican,
Are
but
there
all the
next
more
steps
so
or
in the
additional
current era.
resources you would
It's very
recommend
difficult, and
for
it's
couples?
harmed a lot of relationships that are not able to handle those big differences.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. I keep trying to call up Trump, and so far haven't gotten through. So, okay. You're trying. Sure. So, first of all, just practicing the skills, like we said, in small ways is important. If it helps, getting a coach or a counselor or a therapist who will help guide you through these things. You don't have to be falling apart to go for couples counseling. You can go when things are good or when things are starting to shift, and just make sure that things are in a good place. It's much easier to fix a relationship that's going well and point it back in the right direction than to turn something around that's gone completely in the wrong direction. So reaching out to a professional can help. And then keep reading books. I still read marriage books. It keeps it top of
That's a
mind for me
great
to remember
analogy,
that
the
this is something I have to keep
exercise.
working on.
For
To get
someone
new ideas and
who
new ways of looking at things,
is
I'm all
is
about that. So
really struggling, a
marriage is an
couple who
ongoing
is just
process. It's not
really
like you're going to get to a
struggling
certain place
right
and then be like,
now,
okay,
is
great, we're here. We're
there
there.
a
Just, the
message
same
of
way
hope that
exercise,
you
you can't
could
exercise, get down to a certain
send
weight,
out into the
and then you're
world?
good. No, it's going to be an ongoing thing that you have to keep at so that you keep yourself in good shape. Same thing with your relationship. Just paying attention to it regularly. And we talk in the book. There's a chapter about the positive inputs you can put in, spending time together, making sure to offer gratitude and appreciation, all kinds of ways that you bolster the relationship's long-term viability. Hmm. Yeah, I think that if two people are willing to work to make things better, it can get better. Right? So even when the relationship is not in a good place, even when it's very raw and painful, it can get better if you want to work at it. If you don't want to work at it, then yes, it will not get better. Right? If you're hoping that your partner
Sure.
will change and then things will get better, that's not going to do it. If you are willing to work, get in there and work. There's lots of hope. People have come back from the brink. I have definitely seen people who were ready to get divorced and they turned around. Getting some good guidance helps. If you go to a couples counselor, you may have to try more than one.
Good
Because number
advice.
one, there's some crappy therapists
Okay,
out there,
this podcast
unfortunately.
is called Lessons
But you
from
don't know that
Living,
ahead of
and we
time. They
ask
don't advertise
every
that about
guest
themselves. But
who
number two, even the good
visits
ones,
us,
like sometimes it's just
out
not
of
a fit.
all of the
I've
life
had people come to
lessons
me and
that
they
you
don't
have
really want
gleaned
somebody
up
who
until
who
this
has a sense
point,
of
is
humor
there
that they bring
one
in. Like
that
I bring a
you
sense of
could
humor to the
say is
room. Where
most
again, we're not making fun of
significant,
people, but
one
it
that
makes them
rises to the
lighthearted.
top for
Some
you?
people are not into that. That's fine. I have no problem with that. Different strokes for different folks. So if you go to a couples counselor and they don't seem to help, try someone else. Right? We're not talking about every 3 weeks you switch to someone different for a couple of years. We're talking about you try someone, it doesn't seem like a fit, you're not quite comfortable, try someone else. Nothing wrong with that. Of all the life lessons I have learned, what is the most significant? Ooh, that's a doozy. Um, the one that comes to mind as I just let things float up, one of my teachers taught me, you run a race against no one in this life. Right? Comparing yourself to what other people are
I
doing
love your
isn't helpful.
thoughtful
And the
approach
same,
to
certainly
that
in
question.
relationships,
Thank
we have this
you.
problem
That
where we
is
look like, oh,
awesome.
those guys, that couple's been
Well,
fighting. How come
Rafi,
we
how
always
can
fight about
people
this? And
get in
the
touch
answer is,
with
you don't know what
you?
they're doing. And let me tell you,
All
the
things
couple next
Rafi.
door that you think is so perfect, they're coming to me for a session tomorrow. So don't go looking at what other people do. It doesn't matter, if that guy's making more money. Maybe you're not supposed to make that much money. Maybe you have a different calling in life, right? Most people who are in the helping professions, like social workers, are not known for being rich and famous. I certainly didn't get into social work to be rich. I did it because I wanted to help people. And so, yeah, there's people who have more money than me around here, but I really feel like what I'm doing is meaningful. And to the extent that I compare myself to myself instead of comparing myself to others, that leads me to a happy life.
Well, thank you, Rafi. This has been really
Boy, I'm all
enjoyable,
over the
very
place. But
practical
the best way
information.
is head to the book
Yes, I
website,
appreciate all of your time
thecommunicationbook.com.
and your
If I
wisdom.
haven't sold you on the book already, you can get the first 2 chapters for
Sure.
free.
Thanks again, Rafi. Your work is surely making a difference in relationships all over the country and beyond. We'll leave today with the words of Ronald Reagan. Peace is not the absence of conflict. It is the ability to handle conflict by peaceful means. I love you guys. Go out and make it a great day.